second story today, we have Haiti police identify former top judge as suspect in ex-president's killing. And for the last story, we have for the third time in 20 months, a violent leftist in Portland has become the victim of a grisly homicide. Let's get right into that. And for the first story today, this comes from Breitbart and is by Sean Moran and Matthew Boyle. And this pertains to something I think I reported on either a month ago or 2 weeks ago. I can't really remember. But it is about that bipartisan bill that they're trying to pass right now in the Senate. And this bill is over 2,700 pages long. So it is Bipartisan So-Called Infrastructure Bill is 2,700 pages long. And it goes on to read, if the United States Senate votes this week on the Bipartisan So-Called Infrastructure Bill, it would be humanely impossible for any U.S. senator to read it before voting on it. The text of the draft of the bill, obtained exclusively by Breitbart News from the U.S. Senate sources not authorized to leak it, shows the plan is 2,701 pages long. The text, which Breitbart News is publishing here so that the public can see what Congress is doing in secret, shows the plan is far more than sprawling and expansive than GOP senators who backed advancing it without text even existing led their constituents to believe. Sources familiar with the drafting of this bill told Breitbart News it was being written in secret for months outside of the normal legislative process, which was supposed to be happening in relevant committees of jurisdiction. These sources made the unauthorized leak of the draft text to Breitbart News out of concern that the murky and secretive process behind this bill may have led to widespread corruption throughout its nearly 3,000 pages. And again, if anyone votes on this, yes or no, they didn't fully read it, at least according to Breitbart, because this is 2,700 pages long, and I believe they have to vote on it this week, which they do not have enough time to do with all the other stuff that they're doing in their life and in their jobs. All right, and for the second story today, this comes from The Hill by Caroline Vakel. It is Haiti police identify former top judge as suspect in ex-president's killing. And this is another update from, I think around last week this happened, the killing of the Haiti president. But anyways, it goes on to read, Haiti police are investigating what role former Supreme Court judge may have played in the assassination of Haiti's president following new developments announced on Friday, Reuters reported. A spokesperson for the National Police of Haiti said suspects arrested in connection to the President Jovenel Moise's murder, Haiti Americans and Colombian mercenaries revealed to police that they had visited former Supreme Court Judge Wendell Coq-Thelat's home several times, the wire service reported. Several of them have indicated that they have been to Mrs. Cox's home twice, National Police spokesperson Marie-Michelle Vieira told reporters, according to Reuters. These people gave police details of documents signed during the meetings at Mrs. Cox's home. Earlier this year, Moise claimed that a coup was underway to overthrow the government and kill him. He said in February that at least 20 people had been arrested by police in connection to the alleged plot, the Associated Press reported. So as the story develops and as it goes on, we will get more on that, but as of right now, one of the main top suspects for this assassination is the current ex-judge in, or the current top judge in Haiti. And for the last story today, this comes from the National Conservative, and it is for the third time in 20 months, a violent leftist in Portland has become the victim of a grisly homicide. And it goes on to read, in only 20 months, 3 of Portland's left-wing activists who were known to have engaged in criminal violence died in gruesome homicides, 2 were stabbed to death, and 1 was crushed to death. These deaths underscore the violent lifestyles of Portland's left-wing activist community. Portland has also experienced record-breaking homicides during this same period. On May 25th, Portland police found a man stabbed to death in a transient camp. A suspect was quickly apprehended, Aaron David Christopher, a 40-year-old black male who was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and abuse of a corpse. Christopher had 17 previous felony convictions and was a registered blank offender. Christopher was caught red-handed with the bloody knife still in his possession. The identity of the male was not released until Friday 30th. Joseph Robert Sippy, a 24-year-old white male, was the person killed. Sippy was known to police because he was charged with throwing a Molotov cocktail at law enforcement during BLM ANTIFA riot on September 23, 2020. After being arrested, Sippy never showed up for his court date. A warrant had been arrested and issued due to his failure to appear in court. On Sunday, January 31st, Isaiah Jason Mazza Jr., a 18-year-old white male, was found stabbed to death on the 100th block of Northeast 100th and 20th Avenue. Mazza was currently facing up to 30 years in prison for charges related to an Antifa BLM riot on July 22, 2020. According to a criminal complaint from the Oregon State Attorney's Office, Mazza was one of several men who tore down a piece of plywood covering a window at the Mark O. Hatfield Federal Courthouse. Afterward, Mazza was seen smashing the glass with a hammer and lighting the fuse of a homemade bomb and hurling it through the window. Mazza allegedly placed the bomb inside of the courthouse where it injured a deputy marshal. Mazza was charged with assaulting a federal officer with a dangerous weapon and willfully damaging government property. He faces up to 30 years in prison, and on July 31st, 2020, he was spotted in the street by U.S. Marshals and arrested after a foot pursuit. On August 3rd, an order of detention was signed by a judge. The detention order says that Mazza had a prior criminal history, was a violent person, and was a flight risk. So anyways, the whole gyps of the story, the whole overall meaning of the story is this is what happens when you're involved with left-wing activism, BLM, Antifa, all violence. You look at the riots, you look at the protests, they're all violent. These people were throwing bombs, and I was like, oh wow, he got 30 years for tearing down some plywood. That doesn't seem that bad to me. But then it goes on to read that one of these BLM made a homemade bomb and threw it at police. And this isn't all over the news and all over the media, and people aren't saying this is an insurrection? Are you joking me? Anyways, if you did enjoy today's video, drop a like, drop a sub down below, drop a comment, let me know how I'm doing, let me know what I can do to improve, and don't forget to stay plugged in. Peace out, boys.